Welcome to the virtual community workshop for the City of Davis Housing Element Update. The city is preparing the 2021 to 2029 Housing Element Update to address housing needs in the city over the next 8 years, including identifying sites for new housing development for all types of households. In this video, we will go over what the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, requirement is, and how the city is proposing to meet that requirement through rezoning strategies. But first, let's start with some background. Part of the Housing Element Update is finding enough land in Davis to accommodate the city's Regional Housing Needs Allocation. The Regional Housing Needs Allocation is a state requirement that obligates all cities to make sites available for housing development, with each city having to plan for a defined amount of residential growth. Davis has already found enough sites for new single-family housing, accessory dwelling units or in-law units, small-scale rental units, and condominiums and townhouses, otherwise known as low-density housing, without needing to make any changes to existing plans or zoning. The city has also found sites for some of the new multifamily rental housing that it needs, but early technical analysis completed for the Housing Element Update has identified a need for sites that can accommodate approximately 230 more multifamily rental housing units. In order to meet state requirements, these sites will need to be zoned at 20 dwelling units or more per acre of land. It will be challenging to find enough sites that will accommodate the amount of multifamily rental housing needed to meet the RHNA requirement. Beyond that, one of the main goals of the Housing Element Update is to ensure equitable housing opportunities for all residents. A diversity of housing types would allow for more people to be able to live and work in the city of Davis. For example, early career teachers, service workers, agricultural workers, low-income populations, and individuals with disabilities would all have more opportunities to find housing. So how do we find a solution? In order to meet the challenge of identifying enough sites for enough multifamily rental housing, the city is considering both short and long-term rezoning strategies. Rezoning is the process of changing zoning designations, which determine how land can be used and developed. The city is required to rezone enough sites to accommodate at least 230 multifamily units within the next 3 years. However, the city is also looking for ways to rezone additional sites over the next 8 years. These additional sites would create a buffer in case any of the multifamily sites are developed with uses other than multifamily housing. Here are some of the rezoning strategies that the city is considering to address the short-term requirement within 3 years. These strategies could also help to create a buffer over the next 8 years. Strategy 1: Downtown Davis Specific Plan. The Downtown Davis Specific Plan is expected for adoption in late 2021. The plan would encourage redevelopment of the downtown and could provide capacity for at least an additional 100 multifamily rental housing units within the 2021 to 2029 Housing Element Planning period, in addition to sites in the downtown that are already zoned for housing. The rest of the new units in the downtown plan are likely to be built after 2029. Strategy 2: Residential low-density land. Vacant land designated for low-density uses could be redesignated to allow for high-density housing of at least 20 units per acre. Approximately 12 acres of land has been identified and could provide approximately 230 multifamily rental housing units. Strategy 3: Business park and office land. Vacant land designated for business park and office uses could be redesignated to allow for high-density housing of at least 20 units per acre. Approximately 30 acres of land has been identified and could provide approximately 600 multifamily rental housing units if fully developed for housing, or a smaller portion of the sites could be identified for housing. Strategy 4: Commercial land. Vacant land designated for commercial uses could be redesignated to allow for high-density housing of at least 20 units per acre. Approximately 1.5 acres of land has been identified and could provide approximately 30 multifamily rental housing units. In addition to the strategies just described, this long-term strategy could help provide a buffer of sites for multifamily rental housing. Strategy 5. Sphere of influence. Vacant land within the sphere of influence could be annexed into the city and designated for high-density housing, at least 20 units per acre. The multifamily rental housing unit capacity within the city's sphere of influence is unknown and may not be able to meet the city's rezone obligation within the first 3 years of the housing element planning period, by May 2024. Annexations are often complex, and for this reason, this strategy is not considered for rezoning within the next 3 years, but this could be a long-term solution for providing an adequate buffer of multifamily rental housing units. We want to hear your feedback on which rezoning strategies the city should pursue to meet the RHNA requirement. Go to davisHousingElement.com now until March 23rd to review the maps and rezoning strategies. Then click the speech bubble icon to share your input. You can leave comments on one or all of the strategies.